So weight and managing my weight has been something I've been dealing with since, gosh, as far back as I can remember. I remember feeling very fat, the fat short kid, actually, in elementary school back in third grade at Crooked Billet Elementary School in Haparow, Pennsylvania. Oh, but that reminds me of the good old Philadelphia pretzel trucks that used to be outside our school we could grab on the way home with good yellow mustard, right? So way back to that time, having that feeling, I mean, I was the shortest kid in class through fifth grade. I started growing a little bit in middle school, didn't get my menses till about age 16. So a late bloomer for sure, and then reached my height. But weight was something that I was challenged with. Big hips, which, was very unusual in the small suburban American town that I came from. I was first, my mom came from the Middle East. And so spoke with an accent. We were different. It made me feel different in so many ways from the other kids. They were thinner, they were petite and cute, and those experiences that they had or growing in beautiful ways. And I was always different. I had this sense of self-consciousness and this early argument with my body at age 13, going with my mom to Elaine Powers. I don't know, you guys listening, do you remember Elaine Powers? Exercising with Elaine Powers. I was very into sports. I played soccer. I was the only girl on the soccer team. And so that certainly helped, but still, again, big hips. I remember looking back at my measurements back then. Bust 35, waist 26, hips 36, right? So gosh, what I would do for that figure right now. So we can think about these things. And then through life, at one point I was over 240 pounds. If you've seen my pictures on my website, and sometimes I share, certainly in my presentations, some of those pictures, because the pictures say 1,000 words, and not just over 240 pounds. There was a time when I had severe hair loss, stress induced, perimenopausally induced, severe hair loss to where I could pull back my hair like with a headband and the hair would be missing all the way till basically the crown of my head on the side. So between that and the weight gain, I mean, it has really been a process to prove to myself and to prove to others that you can be empowered in your body and feel in charge and be healthier in another decade than you even are today. Keep creating the habits and keeping the small steps, practicing the small steps that work with you in the right direction. Now, there are ups and lows, and oftentimes you'll reach that phase, and I hear it all the time. Dr. Anna, what used to work is no longer working. Help me. I have felt that over and over again. And certainly working with patients, figuring out what are the underlying hormonal imbalance issues are keeping you stuck or causing you to gain weight, thyroid issues, mold toxicity, hormone disruptors, hormonal imbalance of aging. And I'm right there with you. I am human. I feel it. I fall in and off whatever wagon there may be. The keto-green was struggling with alcohol and mold toxicity for a little bit there too, and just recognizing the challenges that I faced, and I felt that maybe you're facing them too. So today's guest, I really want to talk about this. I want to talk deep. I know some of your questions. I've seen some of you in my office with these same questions. So today I want to bring a longtime friend and someone I admire in the health space. And this is Natalie Jill. Natalie Jill is a master physical fitness, nutrition expert. I mean, she's got so many great qualities about her. She's a really down-to-earth, authentic influencer. And as she's transitioned through midlife, transitioning through at 52 now, struggling with ups and downs in her 40s, so really understanding the grips of the hormonal swings that can happen and helping others find solutions as well as herself. But also one thing that I really admire about Natalie is that she struggled with pain, back pain, injuries, and recovering through the injuries is what has also been tremendously inspirational for me, having dual shoulder injuries
Yeah.
and that setback. So Natalie, I'd love to introduce you to my community to help us with this fat loss midlife
Yes. Yes.
aspect.
All the things on fat. Like, it's such an interesting thing because I feel like us as women, we struggle with this whole body thing our whole lives, right? Like from the time, like, as you mentioned, being a little girl, we're being compared, we're learning, we're thinking, our moms were on the diets, we were following all of that. We grew up in the years of the tab soda and all of the things. And then boom, just when we figure out like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best way to get raised and all those things, now we get hit with menopause and the hormone changes. And we're thinking, what the heck is going on? That's what happens,
That's
right?
it.
Fat loss gets really real. And what's really wild is when you look online at what we can do about fat loss as we age, there's just so much information overload and it can get so confusing. And as you know, Anna, it's not as simple as just follow this one way or give up this food group or, exercise harder. It's just not that simple. It's just not simple like that anymore.
It's not simple like that anymore. And often we're recognizing, and one of the things that I'm really digging into even more now is the fascial changes with hormone imbalances as we age, the frozen shoulder in menopause. Like what works for that, what works against it, and why, collagen support, anti-inflammatories are a really big
Yeah.
part of aging well. But to work through injuries, prevent injuries to begin with, but to work through them, that these steps that we can continuously take to recognize that we
Yes.
there is something we can do. And I'd love for you to share a little bit your story of working through your pain.
Yeah. So a little backstory. I am a big believer if we do not like our circumstances, we don't like our situation, we have a choice. We can either be enrolled in why that's our situation, our circumstances, and it sucks, or we can create a new reality for ourselves. So really what I do with women now is I help people create a new reality for what aging has to mean. And that includes what's going on in our bodies with fat loss, with wellness, all of that. Years and years ago, when I started my fat loss business and fitness journey, it was because of my own setback and my own weight gain after having my daughter, going through depression. That's a story for another time, but that's what my fitness and fat loss business came from. But as the years went on and I became known as this fitness expert, I was also aging and things were changing. And what I noticed in my mid to late 40s was a lot of injuries popping up. And I know you've experienced that too, Anna, but a lot of injuries started popping up. And I saw this big divide happen with myself where I could either say, you know what, it's because of my age. This is what happens. We can accept it. I get to accept it. I'm just not going to be able to be like I once was. Things are going to be harder. Or I realized I could create a new reality, like I just shared, and we can find a different way. It doesn't mean that my injuries didn't happen. It doesn't mean I was going to be hard to overcome them, but it meant that we can start defining aging and our bodies a little bit differently, the way we want them to be, the way we want them to create. So when you asked about my injuries, a couple of years ago, I had a bunch of back-to-back injuries. It was almost like I was being checked, like, okay, here's one injury. Let's see you not be in circumstance. Okay, you did that. Let's do another. Let's do another. And I had some big ones. I had a ruptured disc between L5, S1. Many of you listening have back problems. You can relate to that. So right away, I was known for core strength and abs. And I'm thinking, okay, this just happened. What do I do here? After I learned to work around that, figured that out, got myself out of pain, tore my bicep at the distal, which is very hard to do. Some of you have heard of a torn bicep. This is not an easy injury, but it really changed. I can't hold a pen and write anymore. There's some things that really got in my way there. Just when I got through navigating that, I broke my foot and then I broke my toe. Can't make this stuff up. I had a bunch of surgeries in 2 years. And it's when I first started really learning about the pain cycle. And the pain cycle, what that means is when we have an injury or we have pain, we want to very much so just stay and do nothing. Like, I'm just going to lay on the couch. I'm going to give up. I'm not going to do anything. But that very act of not moving actually keeps us in pain. So to break a pain cycle, we have to work through it. We have to work through it. We have to find a way to work through it. And that is the thing that actually breaks our pain cycle. You just completely muted. I don't know what
There we
happened.
go. I want to talk about that pain cycle too, because, seriously, I've been blessed. I don't remember injuries or whatever. Been very blessed. And I did boxing. I've done boxing for a long time. Hurt my shoulder a couple years back, my left shoulder, but, worked through it, kept up with it, kept my supplements. And over this crazy last year that I had, I realized, anyway, I hurt my right shoulder. I hurt my right deltoid insertion point or bicep tendon right in that nook there. And so I'm like, I tried to box it through it, and it was very, very
Yeah.
painful. Felt like it was getting worse. So then I rested it. And then I couldn't even put my hands behind my back. It got so stiff, and I had bilateral frozen shoulder from resting it. And I was like, okay, well, what's going on here? I also realized I had stopped my tendon support supplement. That's part of my Superwoman packs. I had stopped those packs a few months back. And so that was, maybe the underlying inflammation was
Sure.
being part of that. And then, irregularity in hormone supplementation, those little pieces, means I have to stay on track here. I've got to make sure I'm taking my hormones, make sure I'm taking my supplements, and also make sure I'm exercising and stretching all the muscles around it and strengthening the area, but or around it, doing things you can do.
Yes.
Because I was like, oh, my shoulders hurt. I can't do squats. Go figure.
So what people will ask next is, well, but how do you do that? And the pain and the injuries really are the same category as the fat loss and anything else we're unhappy with in midlife. And what I mean by that is we have a choice to make a new decision for what we want to create. So first and foremost, before we get into the hows, because that's where everyone's brain wants to go, like, how do you do that? But what is the exercise? I want people listening to really ask themselves, have they decided that they want a different reality for themselves? Because this is really critical, because if you've decided that you are the injured person, if you've decided you're the overweight person, you've decided that it's your genetics, your hormones, whatever it is, that you're going to let that take you down, then that is where you're going to keep finding evidence and supporting, and it's what's going to continue. But if you decide you want a new reality, a new version of yourself, that also can be supported.
Yeah, I love that. And so just deciding that you want a new version of yourself. So that would be
That's the first
one.
step. And it's like when someone walks into your office, Anna, they can walk into your office and have all their symptoms and complaints, but it's the same thing. Are they going in combative? Like, hey, nothing's going to work. Like, prove it to me. That's not an ideal patient. Or, hey, I'm over this. I'm really ready to fix this. I'm really ready to change it. That's a patient, you can help.
Right, exactly. You have to be willing and somewhat trusting to take the next right step, or just try it anyway, right? Try it anyway, try to do it anyway. And so part of you getting through, like especially the back pain, can, working through that and noticing, okay, midlife, turning 50, now you're 52. Is there, what's the recovery? What's the like workaround in this recovery?
Yeah. So just to give you an example, so with the back pain, because most women listening have back pain and some problems. Now, I don't know where yours listening is stemming from, but I will say the majority of women, it's L5S1. It's from all the sitting. It's from tight hip flexors. There's a lot of reasons that we end up having it on L5S1. Now, here's the deal. When we have a disc between L5S1, that is cushion for bad behaviors. Hear me out. You're sitting, you're walking, you're running, or whatever. That's a cushion for anything bad behavior. When you don't have a disc, or you have a ruptured disc, or it's protruding, or whatever is going on there, and you feel the pain, you have a choice. You can complain about the disc and work to, how do I fix and regrow this disc, which is not an easy thing to do. Or you can say, okay, what else can I build? What can I strengthen? So it takes that disc out of the equation. So that's what I did. Essentially, I learned how to build my glutes and my core in a way where I don't feel a disc. My body's not using that disc, so I don't feel that pain right there. And then I learned to combat inflammation with how I eat and nutrition and the supplements I take, all of that. That works in a trifecta: my mindset, the supplements and the food that I eat, and then how I work my body so that I don't feel the pain. But all of that had to stem from making a decision that I wanted a new reality there, and that I was really ready to learn those methods.
Yeah. Yeah. So that making that choice to change, to get uncomfortable, to break out of your comfort zone, but also placing fear of that pain, sharp pain, or getting a worse injury.
Exactly.
And so working with someone who knows what they're doing can really make a difference too, and guidance around that.
So when it comes to fat loss, what I want women to know is it's really no different than the pain. Like we are struggling with it because we are struggling with it because we're women. And then you compound hormones and aging and all of these things on top of it. I mean, as we age, you do have a slowed down metabolism. You do have to change how we're eating. We have more sensitive insulin. There's a lot of things that are actually happening. Doesn't mean it's doomsday though. So it's number one, making a decision that I'm going to shift this, then getting clear on what do you actually want for yourself? Is there something else? And then being willing to say, okay, these are the things that are in my way right now, but there are workarounds, there are ways, there are things that I can step up to create a different reality for myself and start releasing that weight.
Yeah, no, that's great. So let's talk about some of those realities, those shifts midlife and
Yeah.
that we want to make. And what do you see that
So
works the
number one,
fastest, quickest?
yeah. So number one, what's worked for us for years and years, just cutting calories and working out harder, that is a stressor now as we age. That's not the answer. You can't just cut more calories and work harder. And when we fall into this idea of that's what we need to do, it can get very depressing and humbling really quick, because then you feel like a failure, that it's not working. Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm just not working hard enough. I'm not trying hard enough. And I want you to know that's not your fault, because just trying to work harder and do more of that is not what's going to fix this. But we do have to realize that as things are shifting, we get to be smarter than those things shifting. Meaning, for instance, you test your A1C and you find out you've got higher blood sugar. Well, because the way that we would eat foods and be active when we were younger affected us differently. So we have to start watching that. But it's simple changes. These are not ridiculously hard changes. It's starting to look at how can we unprocess our diet? How can we eat more natural, real foods? How can we start combining foods so they don't create a sugar spike or an unnecessary insulin spike? How can we start creating more gaps between our meals so that we have a chance for our body not to be secreting insulin all day long and to be in fat burning mode, and to give your body a chance to process things and digest things and combat inflammation? How do we start to time things so that it works with us, not against us? How do we start to eat foods that increase our focus and our energy versus draining that from us?
Right, right. And so for me, and my audience knows very well my keto-green approach, right? Getting
Yeah,
into that concept of hacking our hormones, like where our reproductive hormones really lead the circuit in our
that's
30s and
right.
then start to wane in our 40s. And then what happens is insulin and cortisol
That's
start
right.
to increase. They will increase as we get older. And it also affects our neurotransmitters, our ability, our willpower. So as estrogen and progesterone decline, there's a similar decrease in dopamine and serotonin. So with that, there can be less feelings of initiative, more anxiety, more fear.
Oh, yeah.
And those are things that are also a result of this hormonal cascade. So empowering these hormones as we age is really powerful. And that whole willpower piece, like I'm always happy when I'm leaving the gym. I never
Mhm.
want to go, Natalie. And it has been that mindset, like I don't want to be in pain, right? So
Yeah.
like we don't want to be in pain, but like
No.
working to overcome that, making that combination. I'd love to hear like just, another story from someone you've worked with or in your own life with the midlife, like
Yes.
changing of hormones
Yeah.
and a few
So
things
here's
you
the
did
thing.
differently.
All of that is so critical. Like everything you teach is so critical. Like that hormone piece, that all of that everything you teach is so critical. Here's the thing. If we jump right to that and we don't layer it on top of these other things, then we end up back in a problem later.
Right.
So they both actually work together and they're both equally as important. So it's kind of like, I use the body of water example. If you walk by a really dirty body of water, it just picture everyone kind of envision a really dirty, mucky, gross body of water with lots of trash in it. And I throw another piece of trash in it. We don't know what's making it so dirty or gross. And then I pull a piece of trash out. It still looks the same. Like we can't figure it out. However, if I walk by a really clean, crystal clear body of water and I throw one piece of trash in, I know exactly what's
Yep.
upsetting the scenic route. Like we know exactly what's making it ugly. We're very clear. When we look at our healing and our health and our journey and our bodies in midlife, we've got to be looking at that whole approach. We've got to clean up all the areas. So it's not just jumping into fixing my hormones. And that's what a lot of women unfortunately think that they have to do. It's not just jumping into taking a supplement. It's not just doing anything. It's really looking at, do I have the base right? Number one, is my mindset in the right place? And I know that sounds corny to some people, but really most of you listening, you haven't actually decided. You've decided what's wrong. You've decided what's negative about aging. You've decided what you don't like about your body. You've decided about your diagnosis, but you haven't actually decided you want a different reality for yourself. That I know for sure. I've worked with hundreds of thousands of women and they haven't decided. Until they do, they don't have a change. So number one, have you actually decided? Two, have you gotten clear on what it is that you actually want for yourself? Not the how, but what you want for yourself. And then when you look at those actions, are you taking the shortcut, or are you really trying to go, I want actions that are going to last for life? Jumping into the supplements and the hormones, that's amazing. That's not everything.
Mhm.
The way that you make that a home run for you is you get this stuff right. You have your diet right. You have the types of workouts that work for you. You have that community and that mindset around what it is that you want for aging well. Then you layer that stuff on top and you are a winning formula.
I love it. I love it. We can really dig into this more. I think we should do a total interactive masterclass
I
and
love that.
dig
Wanna do
into
that.
this fat loss and, and thriving in midlife and beyond. And just, I love I just want to dive into your expertise some more. Natalie, you game? Should we do a live
Oh,
masterclass?
I would love it. And especially with your audience, because I know them listening, they're going to send us Instagram questions or messages. And I'd rather do it live where we all can interact and we can go deeper, especially on nutrition and on workouts. I want to go deeper there and then be able to answer all questions.
Yeah, me too. Me too. That sounds amazing. All right. Thank you, Natalie, for being on, and tell our audience where they can follow you.
Yeah, you can come find me on Natalie Jill Fit, but now I want them all to do our class. So they'll find us on the class. So
okay. On the class, dranna.com, dranna.com/fat loss class. dranna.com/fat loss class. And we'll put the links in the notes, but that's the way to get there. dranna.com/fat loss class. Natalie, we'll make that up. We're going to do this masterclass together and you guys will be able to ask your questions, send in your questions ahead of time. And I look forward to seeing you guys there. Thank you, Natalie, for being on and really also being so motivating and inspiring and working with people in person and virtually. I know you have the mindset pearls and wisdom down. And plus, again, powering through the adverse circumstances that often show up and how to conquer that. So look forward to learning from you. And for everyone listening, thank you for listening to the Girlfriend Doctor podcast. Thank you for listening to the Girlfriend Doctor podcast. And I look forward to seeing you on the masterclass that I have with Natalie. You guys sign up, dranna.com/fat loss class. We'll see you there. Thank you, everyone.